chemistry, I'm going to deal with the topic symbols, valency, variable valency, and naming chemical compounds. Okay. Now, what are symbols? In the beginning of chemistry, alchemists used some pictures in place of symbols. Now we know in ninth standard we all know that what are symbols generally. So but in the beginning alchemists they use the pictures. Even John Dalton, he also has used symbols for some of the common elements like hydrogen, oxygen. He used certain symbols like circle, a dot with circle. Okay, so that way. But later on Johann Berzelius, he decided, he said that if we use the first letter of an element, then obviously it will be more convenient to work with those elements instead of writing the full name or instead of remembering the pictures for each element, right? So Johann Berzelius first decided that first letter should be capital and second letter should be smaller. Okay, but now if you see here, there are a number of elements which start with same letter, like carbon, chromium, cobalt. They all start with the same letter Cc. Okay, so this carbon is written only C, chromium is written Cr, cobalt is written C and O. Always remember children, whenever you write the symbol, first letter should be capital and second letter should be small, because if you write here capital O, it will not be cobalt, it will be carbon monoxide. Okay, so always remember to write the second letter as small letter. Okay, so now Johann Berzelius has just proposed, but later on a system was formed, a union was formed. Okay, this union, it is known as IUPAC system, and it generally names number of chemical compounds. Okay, it only decides that how the names should be there. So this IUPAC system, International Union for Pure and Applied Chemistry. The full form of IUPAC is International Union for Pure and Applied Chemistry. Okay, this system actually decides that how should be the symbols written for an element. We know till now that 118 elements are known. Okay, and each element can be represented by certain symbols. Now, what is the significance? Why do we write symbols? Or if we write symbol, what is the most significant thing about symbols? First thing, as I already told you, that if I write a symbol, we understand that it signifies the name of the element. Okay, what is the name of the element? Secondly, it tells that how many number of atoms are there. Suppose if I am writing sodium, okay, so sodium, if I have written just simple sodium, Na, it is derived from its Latin name natrium. So some of the symbols, IUPAC system has also decided some of the systems based on their Latin names, because in those times those names were very common. So they decide these names, these symbols from their Latin names. So like kalium, K for potassium, okay, cuprum for copper, Cu. Okay, because in copper there is no U, but they write Cu because cuprum is there. Okay, similarly there are a number of other elements like silver, it is argentum. Okay, Ag. So these are the Latin names which were very common at those times, and the symbols are derived from those Latin names only. So if we write this symbol, we understand the name of the element. Second thing, we understand that how many number of atoms are there. Like sodium, it is having one atom over here. If I see here cobalt, this is also one atom. Chromium and carbon, they are also one atom. Okay, mass of an atom in AMU. AMU is atomic mass unit. Okay, we measure the mass of atom in atomic mass unit, and the lowest of mass we can say hydrogen is having. Okay, it is having 1 atomic mass unit. Okay, so here if I see this atom of hydrogen, what does it signify is that first thing, as I told you, that this is hydrogen, name of the element is hydrogen. Second thing, it signifies how many atoms of hydrogen are there. If I write here H2, we can understand here that 2 atoms of hydrogen are there. And we should know the mass in atomic mass unit, or it will be told to you that what is the mass of that atom. So if we know that mass of hydrogen is 1, actually it is 1.008, but we consider approximately as 1. So if mass of hydrogen is 1, so how many 2 atoms will make it 2 AMU, isn't it? So this symbol, by writing symbol only, we understand the name of the element, number of atoms, as well as mass. So I hope this concept of symbol is clear to all of you. Now another thing children get confused with it is valency. We can define valency number of ways. The most common is combining capacity of an atom or radical. Okay, it is a combining capacity of an atom or radical. Now we also say that valency is number of electrons gained, lost or shared. Okay, what do you mean by number of electrons gained, lost or shared? Whenever we talk about atom, this picture comes in our mind. Okay, this is the picture of atom which should come to your mind. Okay, now here in this picture, center is nucleus, then there are electrons in orbits, and each orbit has fixed number of electrons. First orbit will have 2 electrons, second orbit will have 8, third will have 18, fourth will have 32, based on the formula 2n square. Okay, where n is the number of shell or orbit. Okay, so this we will be studying in detail in atomic structure. So right now you should know, and one thing you all should know, that outermost shell, which is also known as valence shell, okay, that should not exceed more than 8 electron. In first shell it should not exceed more than 2 electron, and other than the first shell, the other shells, even if their capacity is 18 or 32, they should not have, or they cannot have more than 8 electron in the outermost shell. So if an atom is having 8 electron in the outermost shell, it will become stable. Okay, and if it is stable, it will have zero valency. Like helium, neon, all these inert gases, they are stable, their outermost shell is full, so their valency is 0. Okay, now let us talk about the other elements which are not stable, like sodium. If we talk about sodium here, sodium, it has its atomic number is 11. That means how will be the distribution of electron? First shell 2, second shell 8, and third shell will be 1. That means 1 electron is extra here. So what will sodium do? It will give 1 electron. Chlorine, if we see, it is 2, 8 and 7. So it has 1 electron less. So it will take 1 electron, right? So it is losing, gaining. How many electrons are lost, how many electrons are gained? And in case of carbon, if you see, there are 4. So what will carbon do? It will share the electrons. 4 electrons it will share. So how many electrons are lost, gained or shared? It is known as valency. Okay, it can also be explained somewhere or defined somewhere, like how many hydrogen atoms are combining with the element. Okay, how many number of hydrogen atoms it is combining with the atom, or displacing the atom, you can say. Okay, how many atoms will be displaced by that hydrogen atom. So if you see here, number of compounds are there with hydrogen atoms, like hydrochloric acid or hydrochloride gas. Now if one hydrogen atom is combining with chlorine, that means valency of chlorine is 1. With nitrate, HNO3, okay, one hydrogen atom is combining. You see here, one hydrogen atom is combining. So yes, so one hydrogen atom, so valency will be 1. In case of ammonia, there are 3 hydrogen atoms which are combining, so valency will be 3. Whereas in case of carbon, 4 hydrogen atoms are combining, so valency of carbon is 4. Right? So this way, by how many atoms of hydrogen are combining with the element, we can also find out the valency. Okay. Now I have already discussed with you what are atoms. Now when we say that number of electrons gains, loss or shared by an atom, or even by radicals, okay, even by radical. So what is radical? Radical is a group of atom or a single atom, okay, which behave as a single unit. Even if it is group of atom, it behave as a single unit, and it should possess some charge. It should possess some charge over it. Okay, now what are the charges? If you see here, there are some examples I have given here. Right, in these examples, carbonate, if you see here, carbonate, it has taken 2 electrons, so it gains 2 negative charge, and it is a group of atom which behave as a single unit. We do not say that carbon separately or oxygen separately, it all behaves as a single unit. Similarly, sulfate is a radical, it also has a negative charge, and it is also a behaving as a single unit, okay, and it possesses a charge. So what is a radical? Radical that behaves as a number of atoms, group of atoms that behave as a single unit, okay. Now if they possess a negative charge, then it is known as acidic radical. And if they possess a positive charge, like in case of ammonia, only one positive charge is there, okay, one positive charge is there. Ammonia is very few of the radicals that possess a positive charge. Most of the group of atoms, they will behave as a negative radical, okay, or you can say acidic radical. Very few basic radicals will be found which will be group of atoms, and ammonium is one, okay. So ammonium is having a positive charge, and it is a group of atoms, you can see, that behave as a single unit, and it is known as basic radical. You understand? The negative ones are acidic radicals and the positive ones are basic radicals. In these positive, we can add sodium also, we can add magnesium also, okay, with two positive charge here, right? Similarly, in the negative ones, we can add single atom like chloride, okay, like nitride with three negative atoms, three negative, you can say, the charge, okay. So this way, this is radicals. I hope you understand what is radical, and they have certain valency. The charge tells the valency of these radicals, okay. Now let us talk about variable valency. What is variable valency? What is variable valency? If an atom possesses more than one valency. What do you mean by more than one valency, or how it possesses more than one valency? That atom, they do not only are losing electrons from the outermost shell. Some of the atoms, they also lose the electron from penultimate, that means one shell inner side, okay, or from the next shell also. So sometimes they possess one kind of valency, another time based on the kind of, how much energy they gain, based on that, okay, they will show different type of valency. There are a number of examples of this variable valency. If you will see, there are a number of examples, like tin. If you say tin is having two valencies, like tin is having +2 also, tin is having +4 valency also, okay. Similarly, if you must be knowing about copper is also having 1 and 2 valency. If you know iron, it is also having 1, 2 and 3 valency. Everybody know this. How to write these valency? There are number of other elements which possess, like nitrogen, phosphorus also possess variable valencies, okay. Those are the negative ones. Now whenever we write variable valency, always the lower valency is always written with the suffix OUS, and the higher valency is always written with the suffix IC. Like I will write here stannous, okay, and it will be stannic. If you see this here. Similarly, for copper, the name is cuprum, but with lower valency it will be cuprous, and with higher valency it will be cupric, okay. Similarly, with iron, if I will write, so it will be ferrous and it will be ferric, okay. Now if I will write here, I will also tell you here some formula. Like if I write here FeCl3, so valency is 3 here, so it will be what? Ferric chloride. Whereas if I write here FeCl2, so the formula will be ferrous chloride. Lower valency OUS will be used, okay. Now how to name a compound? When we have to name a compound, we should keep it in our mind that we always write in the formula, in the name, molecular name, we always write metal and non-metal. We all know that IUPAC system has decided a proper naming system, a nomenclature is decided by them. So here first always metal will be written and then a non-metal will be written. For example, if I take very common example, NaCl, so it will be, first we will say sodium, then chloride. But when we write the non-metal, it will always have this suffix IDE. So it will be chloride, it will be sodium. Metal name will be written full, okay, and non-metal will be written with the suffix IDE. Similarly, if we are writing here any other metal name, like we can say copper oxide, Okay, now copper oxide can be cuprous oxide also, and it can be cupric oxide also. If it is Cu2O, it will be cuprous, and if it is CuO, it will be cupric oxide. Okay, now let us take the second step of how to name the compound if both of them are non-metals. Then we will say that other non-metal which is having more number of atoms, right? Like if I say here that phosphorus is there with 3 chlorine atoms. So we will name here, first we will write phosphorus and then we will write chloride. Same IDE will be used, but we will also tell here in the name how many chlorine atom is there. Like phosphorus trichloride. If I write here PCl5, phosphorus pentachloride. Okay. Similarly, there can be a number of other examples which can be right. We know very common example as carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide. Okay, so these are some of the common example. Another way of naming is some of the element they form compound with oxygen. Okay, so common compounds like those compounds, they will have the suffix as 8. I will tell you which common compound I'm talking about. Like I'm talking about nitrates, sulfates, nitrates, sulfates, phosphates. Okay, so these common compounds, how do we write the name of these compounds? Always it will be first nitrate, ATE will be used, sulfate, ATE will be used. But if one oxygen is less, okay, this is written here as nitrate. I am writing here nitrate, and here it is sulfate. But if one oxygen is less, what will be written here? Nitrite, NO2. Okay, it will become nitrite, sulfite. And here one oxygen less from the common compound, it will be sulfite. If phosphorus PO4, okay, one oxygen less PO3, it will be phosphite. Now there are a number of other compounds which are formed with 2 elements and 1 oxygen atom. Again here also we will see the common compound, and in the common compound we will use the same suffix as 8. Okay, like I will write here potassium chlorate, KClO3, which is the most common compound here, right? Now if I reduce one oxygen from this compound, it will be potassium chlorite, ITE will be used. And if I reduce one more oxygen, it will be potassium hypochlorite, because one oxygen less than chlorite, so hypochlorite, not hypochlorite. But if it is one oxygen more than this main compound, it will be potassium perchlorate, because per means extra and 8 is the common compound. Okay, so this way we will name the elements with two elements with a oxygen atom. Compound form here with 2 elements and oxygen atoms. How many oxygen atoms? It depends on that. Now how do we name acids? We name acids. Now acids can be binary acids also, like hydrogen chloride or hydrochloric acid, isn't it? HCl, we all know. So whenever it is binary acids, we write hydro as the prefix, okay, hydro, and then IDE as the suffix with the you can say the atom with which, or the negative radical with which it is forming the acid. Okay, so hydrogen chloride, or it will be hydrochloric acid. Okay, I think I said that IDE will be written. It will not be IDE. Hydrogen chloride will be gas, but if you are saying acid, it will be hydrochloric acid. Okay, hydrochloric acid. IC suffix will be used. Okay, here IC suffix will be used, hydrochloric acid, right? So, but if there is a group of atom, or you can say a radical along with hydrogen, like in case of sulfuric acid, IC is used. Okay, sulfur, but no hydrogen. Whenever there is polyatomic group attached to hydrogen, there will be no hydro prefix used. Okay, only sulfuric acid, and if it is HNO3, it will be only nitric acid. Now in this case it will be again nitrous acid. If it is one oxygen less, it will be nitrous acid. And here in case of sulfuric acid, if it is one oxygen less, it will be sulfurous acid. Okay, so I hope you understand this concept of naming the compound. Okay, thank you children.